Hello, and welcome to episode 7 of the Built for More podcast. This is the third time that I've tried to record this podcast just because of creamies being made and me bumble over my words. So, third time is the charm. So, this episode is going to be about why you are not losing body fat. I thought this would be a really good podcast to make starting off January strong, just because I know everyone, well, not everyone, but a lot of people will start in the fitness journey, and it's very normal to come across plateaus on your fitness journey. Very, very normal. So I wanted to go over what can be causing plateaus in your fat loss journey, and just to give you a little bit of education of how to overcome it as well. So yeah, any roadblocks that might get in your way too. So the first thing that I want to talk about, which is something that a lot of you guys might know of already, if you follow quite a lot of fitness influencers, coaches, if you have or have had a PT or coach in the past, is the very basics of fat loss. So if you don't know, in order to lose body fat, you need to be in a calorie deficit. There is no ifs and no buts. If you are not losing body fat, you are not in a calorie deficit. And this goes for anyone who has got like a health condition, a hormonal condition, your age, anything at all, no matter how active you are. If you are not losing body fat, if you are not losing centimeters, you are not in a calorie deficit. And I know sometimes that can sound a little bit harsh, especially if someone's been trying really hard, and I don't want to come across as if I'm telling you that you're lying, because it might just be from lack of education. I say might just be, most likely is from lack of education, or that you're not trying hard, because you might be genuinely working your ass off and really trying, but the facts and the science is there. It is a scientific law or thermogenesis to be in a calorie deficit, and scientific laws are there for a reason. They do not change. It's like the law of gravity. It can't be like, oh, the law of gravity works except when on a Thursday. It's like, no, the law of gravity is always working. And it's the same with energy balance, and it's the same with being a calorie deficit as well. And it might sound a little bit direct, because I know a lot of people will sometimes turn around and be like, oh, well, I have this hormonal condition, this disease, this health condition, etc., and thyroid issues, whatnot. I'm on this medication and I can't lose body fat. No. If you are truly in a calorie deficit, you'll be losing body fat. And a really good example of this, and it's quite a direct example, is if we look at the guys in Africa who are struggling to gain weight, a lot of those women will have hormonal conditions or be either pre or post-menopausal. Maybe not so much like medication. Some of them will be on medication, but yeah, they struggle to be in a healthy weight. Never mind like overweight and obese. They struggle being in a healthy weight because they are not getting enough food. They are not getting enough energy from the calories that they are consuming, and that's the reason why. It doesn't matter what hormonal conditions we've got, what health conditions they've got, except how old they are. It is just they're not eating enough to be able to be a healthy weight or to be overweight, obese. That is simply it. I also want to go over as well that fat loss isn't linear. So if you start a fat loss journey, you might notice like a really big drop in the first few weeks. Again, very normal as you lose, yes, maybe a little bit of body fat, but mostly it's going to be water retention and glycogen stores in the muscles. Very normal. So when your fat loss starts slowing down, or it potentially stalls and plateaus, this is normal too. And it might just be that your fat loss might stall for a couple of weeks and it'll go again and it'll continue going again. And that is, again, normal. And it's about being patient with that too. As long as you are ticking the boxes, and as long as you are not doing some of the things, or are doing some of the things that I'm going to be talking about on this podcast, you will be in a calorie deficit as well. But I do think it'll be good to go over some of the things that might be stopping you from losing body fat, and just go through being able to help you basically if you are doing some of these things, just to be like, oh shit, I never knew that I wasn't meant to do this, or I never knew I was meant to do this, just to continue you, just to help you with your long-term fat loss journey. And also for when you maintain as well, it's also good to know these things too. So the first thing that I want to talk about is discrepancies in the diet and essentially adherence. So when people are coming to me, or when I work with a client and I might give them deficit calories to stick to and they're tracking themselves, not following a meal plan, or maybe they are following a meal plan and body and fat loss isn't happening, the first thing that I will go over is unrecognized calories, or calories that they are not tracking in and not even considering to be hindering their fat loss journey. And this can be small little snacks, it might be fruit and veg that they're having and be like, oh, it's low calories, it doesn't matter, or fruit that they're having and be like, oh, it doesn't matter, it's fruit, it's healthy, I don't need to track that in. It can be beverages, so it can be cordial, it can be like frappuccinos from Starbucks, it can be tea and coffees in general, and lick, sips and bites throughout the day. So first thing that I want to cover is veg, and a lot of the time this is very, very common, and it's definitely something that I say with all of these things that I'm going to go through, these are all things that I have definitely fallen victim of, is thinking like, oh, it doesn't matter, or not even considering it as something that should be tracked in. So fruit and veg, when you are tracking your calories and trying to lose body fat, I mean, it doesn't really matter so much at the beginning, or not so much at the beginning. If you are a larger person and you might be overweight or obese, at the start it doesn't overly matter so much, because more than likely you will still end up in a pretty big calorie deficit if you are a particular size, because you're going to be having if you are a bigger person, the bigger the person, the higher the metabolism. A lot of people kind of get that wrong, which I am going to do another podcast on that as well, in terms of like metabolism and what it actually is. I think that'll be a really good podcast to go over and like set the record straight on that and educate people. But when you are at the beginning of your fat loss journey and maybe you are a large person, things that are lower in calories like fruit and veg, it's not going to make a huge difference if you don't track these things in. However, if you are potentially only slightly overweight, or maybe you're a healthy weight but just want to like tone up a little bit, these things will matter, because even though they are low calories, even though fruit and veg are low calories, and of course they are full of micronutrients to keep you healthy and to help you feel good and perform well and function well as well, they do still contain calories. And depending on what fruit and veg, sometimes they can actually be quite calorically dense as well. So for example, a banana, even though it's an amazing source of fuel, an amazing source of carbohydrates as well, it's actually pretty calorically dense for what it is. And I would actually consider it not really so much as like low volume, but it's definitely not high volume food to eat as well. So if you're having, like, for example, a lot of bananas or a lot of apples and you're not tracking them in, these can add up quite quickly and tot up quite a lot of calories as well. And a lot of people don't realise that, because an apple is 50 calories. Let's say you have about 4 of them. That's like 200, potentially more than 200 calories. Depends on the brand of apple, the type of apple that you're having as well. So if your coaches reduce your calories by 100, then you're essentially doing that, like getting rid of that completely by eating these apples, because you quote unquote think they're healthy and we don't need to track them in. When everything that should be passing the lips should be tracked into MyFitnessPal. Beverages as well, as I was saying, your coffees, your fancy coffees from Starbucks, all of these things need to be tracked in, because I don't know if you've seen the calories, especially on Starbucks drinks as well. Even like a latte is well over like 100 calories, and some of the bigger ones as well is over like 200 calories. And the frappuccinos are about like 500 calories as well. They're over a meal. Like, it's ridiculous how calorically dense those drinks are. They are a dessert, they are not a drink, and they don't really fill you up as well. Well, I don't personally think they definitely don't fill me up anyway. So again, it's making sure that these drinks are tracked in, because you could be very, very easily taking yourself out of a calorie deficit. And cups of teas and coffees as well, if you are having milk and sugar. Now, if you are having them black, then fair enough, you don't need to track them in. But if you are having milk and sugar, you need to be tracking the milk and sugar, and not just searching on MyFitnessPal milky coffee with 1 sugar. It's actually tracking the amount of milliliters and being specific with the amount of sugar that you're putting in there as well. And yeah, just being accurate about that. being accurate with that too. And then there's lick, sips and bites. Now this is an important one as well, like, because again, the little bites of like, oh, you make, oh, do you want a grape? Do you want a grape? Oh, it's healthy, I don't need to track it in, it's only one grape. Like, again, these things over time do add up. Or if your other half has got like a chippy and offers you a chip, again, these things add up. A common one with mums and grandparents is, let's say the kid eats a lunch or eats a breakfast and they leave like leftovers, they leave like the crust of the sandwiches or the toast and whatnot, and the mum goes in and hoovers it up, and then they don't track it. These things again all add up, especially with like eating like leftover bits of your kids' food as well. Like, it's very, very easy to do and completely forget about it, and it does add up throughout your diet as well. Other thing is, in terms of inaccuracy in tracking, it is very normal if you have been in a fat loss phase for a long period of time, is for your accuracy to go down a little bit. And this is normal if you have been in a dieting phase for, let's say, over 6 months. It can happen before that as well. It just depends on the person, just because you are getting mentally tired from being in a diet. And this is why it's so important to regularly just go through your MyFitness. If you've noticed that you're stalling, or if you'll notice that fat loss is slowing down and you are on pretty low calories, it's good to just look over everything you're doing with a fine tooth comb and just make sure that you are not dropping the ball anywhere. It's also a really good reason to have a coach on this as well, because a coach can keep an eye on what you're doing, keep an eye on your fat loss progress as well. And if you are not losing body fat at a good pace, and you are saying that you are ticking every box and doing everything, a good coach will call you out. A good coach will tell you not what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. Something's not being tracked and you need to like get your A game on here and sort out what that is. And obviously, like, you probably won't say it as direct like that, but it'll be something like, hey, I've noticed you're on low calories, you should be losing at a faster rate than what you are. Let's have a little look over your MyFitnessPal, or whatever you're using to track, just to make sure that you're being super accurate on that. So obviously make sure that you're getting your goal and that you're losing weight at a good pace for you, at a healthy but also a fast pace for you as well, just so you're not getting demotivated with progress not moving forward in a certain amount of time as well. So yeah, it's really good just to make sure that you're not dropping the ball on anything. Another thing, and it's something that I go through with my clients quite a lot, is making sure that you are either pre-tracking either the morning of or the day before or the week before, which is what I tend to do. Make sure that you're either pre-tracking or tracking as you go. So before that food or drink or whatever goes past your lips, it goes onto MyFitnessPal first. And the reason for that, now that might sound really strict, but the reason for that, it's quite common for people to go throughout the day, eat whatever they're eating, not overly think about it, or they might think about it a little bit, be like, oh yeah, I'll definitely be able to get that into MyFitnessPal, and then they lay down before they go to bed and go, shit, I need to track all of this into MyFitnessPal, or at the end of the day, let's see how much I've got left, and they track all the food in, but because it's been like 3, 4, 5, 10 hours since the first meal or when they first started eating, you start to forget things. You start to forget your weight, like weights of food that you're tracking in. How do you know the exact weight of your cereal that you put in your bowl? Like, how are you knowing the weight, the milliliters of the milk that you put on the cereal? How are you knowing how many grapes you had or how many grams of grapes that you had? How are you knowing all these things, and again, how much oil you had in everything throughout the day? You're not. You're going to miss something. Please make sure you're pre-tracking or you're tracking as you are going to ensure accuracy as well. Another thing is eating out a lot or buying quite a lot of pre-packaged food and not making your own food. Now, I'm all about people eating out and having a great social life, and I'm all about ease in terms of like ease of cooking and stuff like that. But if majority of your foods are coming from like packaged sauce, microwave meals, you're getting takeaways quite a lot and trying to track them in. If you're eating out like KFC, McDonald's, Subway and stuff like that, and tracking in the calories that they have on the website, this is not going to be accurate. And even though they have calories on the menus in restaurants and on the back of boxes and in Subway and stuff like that, they are not accurate. And the reason why they are not accurate, and this is like I always say this, is like, let's say you get a KFC rice box. There's a bloke or a woman in the back making that KFC rice box, and they're just following instructions, but they're not there with a scale making sure you've got X amount of rice, your chicken weighs X amount, they're putting X amount of sauce on it. They are not doing that. They are slapdashing it together to get it to you as quick as humanly possible. It's not going to be accurate. It'll be close, but it won't be accurate. So if you have noticed a plateau on your journey, all of these things are going to be adding up. And if you're doing multiple of these things, again, it's all going to be adding up and it's going to be stalling your journey. And I don't want that to happen, hence why I'm telling you all this information as well. So these are a few things that could be getting in the way of your fat loss journey. Oh, sorry, my mouse wasn't working then. Just to go through my notes. It's also good to go over about a healthy diet as well, because a lot of people might not be tracking their food, and they might just, again, you might not be tracking your food and you might be eating a quote unquote healthy diet. Now, this is something that I've noticed quite a lot. And when I used to work in an office, there was a member of staff who was always trying to lose weight. That was every January, oh, I'm going to eat really, really healthy. And they'd eat like a box of nuts, or they'd eat like a tub of olives, or they'd eat like all of these healthy things, but they are quite calorically dense. So just because something is quote unquote healthy, just because something's a fruit and vegetable, so something's got salad in it or no butter, doesn't necessarily, like, it might be healthy, yes, but it doesn't mean that you're going to be in a calorie deficit for eating these things. So for example, like nuts, sauces, oils are very, very calorically dense. Seeds, I remember this member of staff putting fucking seeds on everything, like dried fruit and nut mixes, or seed and nut mixes, and orange juice. It's all of these things, even though yes, they are very, very high in nutrients, they are also high in calories. So if you're not knowledgeable about this, and if you don't have the education behind that, and you're eating these foods quite a lot, that can get in the way of your fat loss progress. Also, it's, speaking of micronutrients, it's also good to consider your macronutrients as well. So your macronutrients, again, if you don't know, again, I'm more than happy to do a podcast on this. Your macronutrients are your proteins, your carbs, and your fats, and basically they're nutrients that we as humans need in large quantities, whereas micronutrients are nutrients that we need in smaller quantities. And macronutrients, if you're not getting a healthy amount of protein, carbs, and fats, this can stall progress. Now, majority of people aren't getting enough protein. If you're working with a coach, more than likely they've set you a protein target. It is very difficult to get that amount of protein in. It's definitely a skill that you've got to work towards, but once you've got it, it is an absolute game changer in terms of your fitness journey and in terms of your fat loss progress as well, because if you are eating a decent amount of protein, it's going to help keep you satiated, it's going to help keep you fuller for longer, which means that you'll be less likely to reach for the snacks and reach for the licks, sips and bites as well. So I just thought I'd go over that. Same with healthy carbs and healthy fats. So with fats, even though it is the most calorically, not the most, but one of the most calorically dense macronutrients, it is out of protein, carbs and fats, but there's some people will class alcohol as a macronutrient as well. Oh, that's a topic for another day. I'm not going to go into that now. It's too complicated. Or it's not, but it's not relevant for this podcast. Fats are more calorically dense than protein and carbs, but it also slows down your digestive system, which helps you stay fuller for longer, and it also helps balance your blood sugars as well, which again prevents blood sugar crashes, which again can help you stop reaching for licks, sips and bites as well. And having a decent amount of carbs means that you'll have a lot of good energy, which means that you won't feel like a depleted battery, because a lot of you you might know this, you might not, but if you have a very low carb diet, you can end up feeling like, as I said, a deflated battery. Can end up feeling a little bit like a zombie if you don't have enough carbohydrates. And I have been there on low carbohydrates. It is not fun. You feel absolutely shit, and that can end up stalling your progress, because if you feel shit and you are feeling like a zombie and you're slow, you're not going to be moving as much, which can add to your NEAT as well, which is going to be what I'm talking about next as well. So it's really good to just be aware of not just how many calories are in, but the quality of your food and the quality of your diet as well. When I work with a client, I will give them a calorie and protein target, and then as their coach, I will look through the MyFitnessPal diary just to make sure that their carbohydrates and their fats are in a healthy place as well. Next thing that I want to talk about is exercise. So at the end of the day, we do not need to go to the gym and do cardio to lose body fat. However, if you are a sedentary person and you just sit on your bum all day, or maybe not to sit on your bum all day, but like sit on your bum for like 8 hours for work for majority of the day, having good physical activity and making sure that you're moving your body once a day is going to massively benefit you, because you'll be moving more, you'll be more active, which means that you can get away with having more food whilst to be in that calorie deficit. Whereas if you don't do any exercise and maybe your steps are like under 5,000, you don't do any cardio, you might do like a little bit of weight training or no weight training, it is going to be so much more difficult for you to lose body fat because essentially you are not moving. I always joke that when I worked in an office, my steps were literally about 3,000 like every single day. It was abysmal how little I would move, and then I wondered why my calories had to be 1,100 in order for me to lose body fat. No, it wasn't too low for me. No, it didn't fuck up my metabolism. My calories needed to be that low because, again, sounds really blunt, a corpse would move more than me. It was so bad how little I would move. I'd lift a little bit of weights, and other than that I wouldn't move. My calories had to be super low, and it was only when I actually started like getting off my ass and fucking moving that my calories went up to match this as well. So yeah, having like a decent amount of physical activity in your week is going to make your fat loss progress so much better, not just in terms of like your weight training and cardio, but getting your steps up. So yeah, it's really beneficial to help you on your journey. Also, speaking of steps and speaking of neat, everyday movement's actually really important for this. So I always talk to my guys on my team about steps and making sure you're getting outside once a day, or maybe not even getting outside. Obviously it's more beneficial if you get outside, but getting out, getting up off your bum and getting some steps in, because NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis, this is going to burn more calories than your cardio and your weight training will, like in it over time as well. Because obviously if you're on a treadmill for let's say 30 minutes, you're walking all the way throughout the day as well, and you can fit steps in a lot easier than potentially like 30-45 minutes of cardio. And this is from simple things like making sure you're walking up the stairs, going like if you're working in an office, going a long way around to the bathroom. I think it was like the 4th floor of an office block that I worked, and yes, we had a toilet on that floor, but I used to literally, when I needed the bathroom, I'd get up, I'd walk all the way down the stairs to the very bottom of the office block, go to the loo, then walk all the way up the stairs and then back to my desk as well. Back to my desk again, because that massively helped me with my steps, instead of just going like probably 20 steps to the toilet in the office block. It might have been more than that. I think I'm under exaggerating that, but yeah, barely any steps just to loo on the same floor than actually going all the way downstairs to the loo, going all the way back up and back to my desk again. And little things like I used to have like a very small cup on my desk filled with water, and I had like quite a decent water goal, so I would have a small cup, so like I would purposely have to get up, go and fill my water cup up, and then go back down on my desk. So again, it was like little ways just to get little steps throughout the day. When I go to like Tesco to do my food shop, I'd park the furthest car parking space that I could away, so I could get more steps going round like Tesco or Aldi or wherever I was shopping at that point. When I was like going to meet my friends, or if I was going round to like a family's house, I'd actually park quite far away. I wouldn't park right in front of the house. I'd park maybe like a couple of blocks away to get extra steps. If I took the bus somewhere or I got a taxi somewhere, I'd actually get the taxi to drop me off a little bit further so I could walk. All of these little things massively help you just get those steps up and just help keep you active, which helps obviously push you further into that calorie deficit as well. So yeah, all of these things are important, both yes, going to the gym or doing a home workout and getting that cardio in, but of course being active throughout the day as well. Speaking of activity, I also just wanted to highlight about activity levels and making sure that it's sustainable for you, because something that crops up quite a lot in January And it happens, like, you'll see it if you go to the gym quite regularly, you'll see it every single January, where a lot of people will join, which is great. It's great that people are giving themselves like another chance of losing body fat and getting themselves healthy and in good shape and all that fun stuff. But it happens quite a lot where, as a PT, I'll see someone in the gym and they'll be in every single day for like 2 weeks, and then we'll never see them again. So it's really, really good to have sustainable, realistic workout routines and exercise plans, just to make sure that you avoid that burnout as well, just to make sure that you can be super consistent with it, because consistency is key. It's not a race to go to the gym every single day. It's not a medal to win. If you go to the gym 2 times a week but you're consistent with that, that is better than the person who comes every single day for 2 weeks and then we don't see him for like the rest of the year, and then they'll come again in January and do 2 weeks. And because you'll be doing two times a week, you will have more sessions in the bank by the end of the year than the person just rocking up for 2 weeks and then never to be seen never to be seen in the gym again. Next thing that can be hindering your fat loss progress is undervaluing your recovery and undervaluing lifestyle factors, which can be limiting you as well. The first thing that I harp on about quite a lot is sleep. So sleep is so underrated for fat loss. Now, if you do not get enough sleep, you can be impacting your hormonal balance, which can throw off your emotional regulation, it can throw off your mood, it can throw off your energy levels. Lack of sleep in general can affect your emotional regulation anyway, which can potentially trigger emotional eating, binge eating, memory. So those lick, slips and bites, you might not be remembering them. It can affect your, of course, your energy levels. If you're fucking knackered, you're not going to be as vibrant and moving around, and that's also added to your NEAT as well. So the person who's like a little bit more energetic and hyper than someone who's very naturally like low on energy, they'll be burning more energy, and of course it's easier for them to be in a calorie deficit as well. Also, stress has quite a big factor on this as well, because if you are stressed, this can impact your digestive system. Again, it can lead to hormonal changes. It can again lead to emotional eating if you're trying to numb those emotions, if you're trying to distract yourself by what you're feeling. And yeah, if you're wrongfully stressed, you might just have periods of time where you do have very low energy as well, which of course can then lead to being in less of a calorie deficit too. Hydration, the big one. So hydration can affect your appetite regulation. So again, you've probably heard of this, where it's like it might not be hunger, it might be thirst, and that is actually true. If you are not staying on top of your hydration, you will feel more hungry than someone who's super hydrated. Now, there's a lot of things going around that, oh, you should have like 2 litres a day, and that's a good place to start off with. But if you're active, like either in an active job, or if you go to the gym and you train, or you do cardio, or you do quite a lot of steps a day, like above 10,000 steps, you will probably need between 3 to 4 litres, which is quite, usually it shocks people when they go, what, I always get told 2 litres a day. If you're active, you need a lot more than that. And if you're not drinking those, again, it can lead to poor appetite regulation, can also lead to digestive issues as well, and also it massively affects your performance in the gym. If you are hydrated, you are going to be able to push hard in the gym. If you are getting enough sleep, you are going to be able to push hard in the gym. If your stress levels are under control, you are also going to be able to push hard in the gym. If you are pushing harder in the gym, you are burning more calories and you are burning more energy. Yes, I know exercise isn't for that. It is for our health, both mentally and physical. But if you are training harder, you will be burning more calories, which means it's going to be easier for you to be in a calorie deficit. And if your sleep recently has been piss poor, or you've dropped the ball in your hydration and your training is shit and you're plateauing, that might be a reason why. Next thing that I want to go over as well is psychological barriers and mindset challenges for weight loss. So with fat loss and plateaus and stalls and fat loss journeys getting a little bit slower, like if a client came to me about this, I like to assess their expectations of fat loss. And because usually they'll be like, oh, I went on this crazy fad diet 5 years ago and I dropped 10 pounds in 1 week, and I've only dropped 2 pounds in a week. with working with you, working with like a PT, and I'm like, good, because that £10 is just ridiculously unrealistic. Majority of it's going to be water. You probably felt shit. You're probably doing extreme shit, like, and you might not have even been exercising as well. So good if it's that slow, because £1 to £2 a week is a really good amount of like weight loss for a, how am I going to say normal size human? For an average size male and female, that is a great amount of weight loss to be having a week. Me, itty bitty, I am 5 foot. Usually I will lose half a pound to a pound a week. That is good for me, and that is just because I am tiny, so my weight loss is going to be small as well. So again, it depends on you, so it's always good. This is what I do with clients, is I look at the expectations, go, look, you're 5 foot, just like me. You're not going to lose as much as someone who's 6 foot, or a male that's 6 foot who is like a lot heavier than you, who trains 5 times a week and you train 2 times a week, and essentially we go on that expectations. Basically going, this actually should be your expectation of fat loss. So you losing £0.5 to £1 a week isn't slow, it's actually really, really good for you. Not only to make sure it's consistent, so we actually get the longevity out of this diet and we don't crash and burn out, that we're able to be consistent for a long period of time, which will get you your results, but also that you'll learn the habits along the way, so that when you get to where you want to be in terms of your fat loss goal, you also have the habits in place and you have solidified them so that you can maintain it as well. So that is super, super important as well, because unrealistic expectations can be so frustrating to people, and I know that because I've had them myself. So again, having that education is super important, and it massively helps you on your fat loss journey as well. It's also really good to have a positive mindset on your journey as well, because there are going to be times where you fuck up, and that's not me not believing in people. That's because I know that the people that I work with anyway are human. I know that I am a human. I fuck up. People that I work with fuck up. Now, this doesn't mean that we're bad. It doesn't mean that I'm a shit coach. It just means that we are human. However, it's how, and I say this to my guys all the time, it's how you react to those fuck ups. If you fuck up and you make a mistake on something and go, oh, it doesn't fucking matter, the rest of the week is ruined, and then you binge eat for the rest of the week, or you binge eat for the rest of that day, then yeah, that's not great. But if you make a mistake and go, oh shit, I fucked up on that, just carry on as normal, get back on plan, you are going to be so much more further along in your fat loss journey, because you've not pressed the fuck it button when you made a little bit of a slip up. This is also really good as well in terms of training. Like if you make a little slip up, cool, just continue on with your training as well. If you added up wrong with your weight plates, again, instead of sacking off the session, just continue on. If you are ill and can't train, don't get into a pity party and just start eating everything around the house or phoning the takeaways because you're feeling a little bit ill. Stick to your nutrition. You might not be able to train, but just control what you can control. And that's in regards to everything in your fat loss journey. Control what you can't control. If, for example, you wanted to, or if you had all of your food planned and then you made a mistake on your meal plan, just do what you can to solve it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but again, imperfect action is better than no action at all. And again, I say this to my guys all the time. It's like when you go to the gym in January and you might not be able to get on any of the exercises that you have in your exercise plan. Instead of fobbing off a session and going home, do alternatives. And you might not know the alternatives, and either A, you can Google it. Google might not be right. Let's be honest, it more than likely won't be right. It might be right in a couple of cases, but it also might not be right. But again, imperfect action is no action at all. You can write a note to your coach and be like, hey, I couldn't get on the lat pull down, but I did this instead. And your coach might be like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like that is a perfect alternative. Or they might be, oh, well, actually, that's great that you did that, but I would prefer you to do this movement in the future. Again, imperfect action is still better than no action at all. And this is something that I tell all my guys, and it's something that I hold myself to as well. So for example, on New Year's Day, I went to a different gym called King's Gym in Bury, and I actually got my new training plan the day before. And one of the exercises that I had in my plan was a chest supported kick down on the cables. Now, I needed a daisy chain. If you don't know what a daisy chain is, you don't need to worry about it, but it's basically an attachment to cables which lengthens the cable. Now, I needed one of those, but the gym didn't have one, or if it did, I couldn't find one. So instead of going, oh, I'm just not going to do this movement, I just did a normal cable kickback instead. And yes, it's not optimal because it isn't the exercise that I had in my program, but again, imperfect action is better than no action at all. So that's just something to remember on your fitness journey to keep you moving forward. So yeah, a positive mindset and a good mindset is really, really important throughout your whole fitness journey, not just in terms of like nutrition, not just in terms of fat not loss, but in terms of the longevity as well. It's also really good to have a supportive partner, supportive friends, and a supportive community as well, because it is very normal to get disheartened on this journey. It is very normal to lose motivation. It is very normal to kind of have those moments where you're like, why am I doing this? I'm working so hard and I've not gotten to where I am. Like, yeah, I've been dieting for X amount of time and I'm not where I want to be. These feelings are very, very normal. However, it's really good to have like an accountability partner or a coach or a community that you can voice your opinions and concerns to. And then you can almost have like a little bit of idea table tennis back, because sometimes even just sending someone a message with your worries and with your concerns, sometimes you can reread over it and be like, oh, I was just being a little bit silly, or I was just being dramatic, or again, it just helps you voice your opinions just to continue you on your journey. Hopefully that makes sense. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Now I just want to go through some of the key points that I mentioned. So in terms of stalling on fat loss, this can just be your diet discrepancies and adherence in terms of your diet plans, as I was saying, like not accounting for snacks, lick sips and bites throughout the day. You might be saying that you're eating healthy, but obviously to be in a calorie deficit, you need to be intaking less calories than you're expending. So even though you're eating healthy, you might be eating quite calorically dense, healthy food. You might not be having a good amount of, like a good balance of macronutrients, so you have a good balance of carbs, fats, protein, which can stall progress as well. And also you might, again, with physical activity, you might just generally just not be moving that much throughout the day, so you might actually just need to pull your calories lower, or just get up off your butt and move a little bit more as well, whether that's in the gym, whether that's steps. Just find what works for you, that and something that you can be consistent with as well. Making sure that your sleep's in a good place, your stress is in a good place, and your hydration is in a good place as well, just to make sure that you are setting yourself up for success. And of course, making sure that you have realistic expectations for you and your fat loss goal, for not just consistency, but to help you keep your fat loss goal or keep your goal for a long period of time as well. And of course, make sure that you have a positive champions mindset instead of a negative mindset and oh, woe is me. No, we are winners here and we have a positive mindset on our journey. And as I was saying before, control what you can control. And if you have to do imperfect action, remember it's better than no action at all. You are lapping the people who are doing absolutely nothing, or just getting a gob on and walking out the gym when they can't do the perfect session or in the perfect order and things like that. And of course, make sure that you have a source of support. So I put my teeth back in, an accountability partner, a coach, a community, someone that you can bounce ideas off and share any concerns of as well. So what I would do, if you've listened to this and you might have even been shocked like by some of the things that I said, especially in terms of like tracking your lick sips and bites and things like that, I would like you all to reflect on your habits. And if you have noticed, or you was listening to this and going, oh shit, there's loads of these things that I do or don't do, don't try and change everything in one go. Like you might have noticed like maybe 10 things that I've mentioned is like, oh, I need to pick up the ball on this. Just make one small change at a time, just so it's not overwhelming and that you're completely flipping the script on everything. And I also want you to remember as well that everyone's weight loss or fat loss journey is unique. And just like I was saying before, how with me it's successive, I lose half a pound to a pound a week, that might not be the case for you. As I said, you might be able to lose more, it might be even less if you're a smaller human than me, and you maybe might not be as active as me as well. So everyone's weight loss journey is unique, but remember that hard work, consistency, and time pays off. And as long as you are doing these things, and as long as you're accurate, and as long as you're actually in a calorie deficit, you will lose body fat in time with consistency. So you're not just going to the gym for a week and fobbing it off, or being on the ball with everything and then fobbing it off, or exercising for a week and, as well, I've already said that, haven't I? But you know what I mean, you're not doing all these things for a week and then dropping the ball on them. That consistency, as well as the effort as well as the time, is vital. But thank you so much for joining me today. So please reach out for any thoughts. If you have any questions, please leave a question below on this podcast, because I know you can leave questions both on Spotify and on YouTube. And if you want to reach out to me on Instagram, you know where I am. It's Siobhan, spelled SIOBHAN body balance, all one word. That's me, my handle on Instagram. So shoot me over a message if you do have a question or a thought or anything that you want to talk about, and I'll be more than happy to chat to you in DMs. And I also want to go over the next episode as well, because the next episode is going to be all about motivation, and it's all about motivation, but more so how to stay consistent on your fat loss journey. So please stay tuned for that, and I will love yous and leave yous. Have a lovely rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're watching this. Have an amazing rest of the day, and I'll catch you on the next one.